Okay, I've made this video for you so you can see the process from start to finish pretty much of how to draw an image from a grid transferred onto a larger grid. You can watch the process of me using the small blocker to draw square by square and transfer the image from my picture to the large paper. And then in some places I'm going to stop so I can give you a little bit more instruction on how to draw specific areas like the nose or texture in the hair. You should have a photograph with a 1/2 inch grid on it. You should also have a piece of 12 by 18 paper with a 1 inch grid on it. So we're blowing up this picture, taking it from 1/2 inch to 1 inch. You should also have a little paper blocker. Your photo and your large grid should be labeled with letters in a column on the left and numbers in a row on the top. And then on your big paper, you should have the corners should be empty. So your grid should be A through P and your numbers should be 1 through 10. Okay, so you can see that I started already and I've started on my hair so that I could show you a little bit of kind of the idea behind giving texture and show you the process of drawing a grid portrait or drawing any kind of image from a grid. So the numbers and the letters are so that you can correspond the correct squares on your big paper to your photograph. I've done row A, B, and C already. Row A is blank, row B has a little bit of like wispy hairs, row C is where my actual like full part of my hair starts. So I'm going to show you in row D kind of how to do this. Your picture should be black and white, so you should be basically drawing values or lights and darks, okay? You should also have a sticky note, or your paper blocker should be a sticky note. So you should be able to put that there and leave it so that it will only show the part that you're drawing. So the point of these little pieces is to block out all of the extra stuff so that you can focus on one square at a time, building up a whole image. All right, so in my block D1, I'm putting my paper blocker over D1 and I'm only going to draw exactly what I see in that block. Hair is really difficult, okay, I'll give you that. It does not have to be exactly what is in the square if you're trying to draw these little pieces of hair that are like, if your hair is like mine, it's all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and start sketching, and while I'm sketching, I will kind of tell you what I'm doing. Like I said, the little wispy kind of like pieces that are everywhere, I'm not trying to make those perfect. I'm going to try to obviously connect them and make sure that my grid is like coming together, but you're really just concerned about values in this section. So especially with hair, you want to be sure that you're getting the right texture, and typically when you draw hair, you're not drawing individual strands. We've talked about before different types of shading, and you are going to probably want to use hatching lines in order to get this to be the right value. So hatching lines or contour hatching lines are lines that are built on, so you know, the more you draw, the darker the value. So they should be lines that are built on, and they should be going in the same direction. So if I start my hatching lines in this curve, then the rest of the lines that I hatch over here in order to make it lighter or darker need to be on the same curve. Okay, so I've pretty much done that square. I'm gonna go ahead and move over. You need to be working from right to left. Sorry, from left to right. and from top to bottom. So the way that you read, all right? So I'm gonna draw my basic shapes that I'm seeing in my square, okay? All of the things that are kind of larger, and then all of those little, like I said, the wispy hairs don't have to be perfect, but these are darker values that I drew here. And then, like I said, hatching lines. So I'm gonna go through, that must be like a curl that's showing some light through it. So those lines are not quite as dark, but then down here, this is like black. So I still need to, so that I'm not getting these like scribble lines all over the place and I'm not doing like this, I still need to draw the lines in the same direction that my curl in my hair is going, so that I have the texture of hair, okay? So you're trying to fill it in as much as possible, make it as dark as possible, but you also want to make sure that you're still getting that texture. The most important thing about this project is that you are literally only drawing what you're seeing directly in this square. So if I look at right now, I've got like half of my hair and half of my, not half, but the corner of my eyebrow, and the rest of my block is a lighter value. So obviously that's skin, hair, eyebrow. So I'm gonna start with my lightest value, and you can see up here that I've started my skin and I did all of that the same way. I'm starting with my lightest value where I'm like barely doing my pencil so that my skin is not too dark. And then I'm gonna go back in, I'm gonna draw the line where my hair, looks. So if you look at this square, look at the line of the hair. It's going almost to the corner, but not quite, and then up to right about half. So I'm gonna draw that line first, okay? And then my eyebrow cuts the corner here and goes like this. Okay, so obviously whatever you pencil in to begin with can be changed if you think you got the wrong angle or whatever. Like that probably needs to come a little closer together, but I'm going to leave it for right now, and when I go back in to shade it in, I will fix it. Okay, so a couple of things to be careful of, or to make sure that you're doing correctly. As you can tell when I'm filling in my eyes here, your lines have to make sure that they're going at the right angle, and that they're matching up from the small squares to the big squares. So if you're not paying attention to where the lines start and stop, they might not actually connect to each other on the big grid. And then also, you have to make sure that you're looking at different values. So when you're drawing, like this is a good example, when you're drawing a nose, you're not really drawing a lot of hard lines like with the sharp end of your pencil, but you're more so shading things in order to define areas. So the bridge of your nose is, when you're drawing or painting, is actually not made up of lines, but it's made up of shadows. So same thing underneath your nose, and on the sides of your nose. Those are really not lines that you're drawing. You need to make sure that you're just looking at the lights and the darks in each individual square. One more thing that you might want to pay attention to is any areas that have highlights. Right here, I'm erasing in all of the spots where there might have been a bright light shining on my face. And you can always go back in and erase, especially if you're drawing lightly enough and shading it in enough. But everything on the parts that you're drawing, anything on your face or your shirt or your hair or whatever, even if it's like the lightest part of your skin should have some sort of shading on it. There should not, the only parts that should be actually paper white would be the parts that you're erasing to make a highlight.